out there tonight?
Well, you stumped me now.
Check out our website, mannimalresearch.com. Thanks to everybody. Hello. How is it going out there tonight, everybody? Hope everyone is doing well. Those of you out there that are going to hang out with us live tonight, those of you that will catch it in the future, we certainly appreciate your support. Thank you very, very much. I am joined tonight, as always, by my partner in crime. You can just tell how excited he is by the look on his face right now, Mr. Jasper Walls. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, buddy. How much?
You're just raring to go, ain't you?
We already got a thumbs down already.
I saw it, man. We've had it for 10 minutes. How you get a thumbs down before a show starts? Haters gonna hate, man. I'm telling you.
It must be those experts. It must be those experts.
Yeah, it's a Bigfoot expert out there giving us a thumbs down.
Yeah, that's for Daryl out there.
They're out there starting crap. But to the feller or the missus that gave us the thumbs down, right back at you, and appreciate your subscription. And joined tonight, as you can tell, once again, just like we were last Sunday, by Mr. Daryl Owen. How is it going tonight, buddy?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you.
Good deal. Yeah, Daryl is joining us for the second Sunday in a row, and it's working out so well. This might need to be a permanent thing. I can work that out with the three of us work on this thing every Sunday night. But Daryl is here again because he brought us another guest. A pretty impressive guest, and just like last Sunday, we went out of the norm, outside the norm, a little bit. You know, we are a Bigfoot show. Last week, we spent some time with Deb, who is big into Dogman, and tonight we are going to spend some time with Ruben, who is into UFOs. So I've been looking forward to this one. He is a friend of Daryl's, and Daryl lined this up for us, and we appreciate that, buddy.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having him on.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We've had him set up for a while now, and finally here. So we're going to get it done. I want to ask everybody, if you have not done so already, and I'm glad Mr. Thumbs Down out there has already done this, hit that subscribe button. If you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button for us, guys. We certainly appreciate all of the help, the support out there. You guys are awesome. Tell your family and your friends and everybody how great we are and how good looking I am and how ugly that one down there is. So they can come check it out.
Daryl, right?
I can't hear you, man.
You're talking about Daryl.
I'm on the side, buddy. You're on the bottom.
That's right. Get here on time, maybe you'll be on the side.
I have a side piece.
Oh my God.
She's right here.
Mine's standing right there.
Wayne's at work.
I have there are no side pieces over here. There's just the one and only. Guys, head over to mannimalresearch.com when we are done tonight. Check out our website over there. You can report your encounters, get some information on getting out in the woods, doing your own research, maybe even becoming a member of Mannimal yourself. And just like everyone else in this world, we have a Facebook. Everybody's got a Facebook, so do we. Head over to Mannimal Research on Facebook and join our group over there. We would appreciate that. And I'm sure a lot of you noticed that a few days ago, we released our first ever Mannimal Encounters, and it's doing pretty well. Actually, getting some good feedback on it. A lot of comments on it. People seem to like it, and we've gotten some more encounters in there. or turned into us, and we're going to keep doing it. It was I enjoyed doing it, and got some more ready to send out. But guys, send your encounters into manimalEncounters@yahoo.com. And again, that doesn't have to just be a Bigfoot. It could be a dog man, other cryptids, UFO. Something got Walls tickled over there. I don't know what. I think he listens.
I'm going back and listening to your video again.
Lives in his own little
Animal
world.
Encounters things, and you already got thumbs down.
Just the one? Oh, on the Mannimal Encounters? Yeah.
Yeah.
Every video we got's got 1 thumbs down. Haters
One or
gonna hate, man.
1 or 2.
Yeah. I'll take 100 thumbs up to 1 thumbs down. Always.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, ManimalEncounters@yahoo.com. Send your encounters over there. Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, dogman, other cryptids. Tell us about Nessie if you want to. Just send us some encounters in, and we'll get those out there and get them shared for everybody to enjoy.
I'd definitely like to hear something about Nessie. Man, I always liked that crypt and everything to go out there and see that. We got somebody from England on here.
We got a couple people from across the pond over there. I can't remember their names. We don't have near as many in here as we normally do at this time, but it is a Sunday. You'll be all right. They'll start filtering in. Daryl, what's been going on with you, buddy? You been out in the field any?
I have not. Just been working hard and trying to stay busy. We're kind of remodeling the house again, so a lot of time at home being spent. And Kelly's busy over there right now. She's actually putting on the final coat of our countertops.
Good deal. Good deal. What about you, Mr. Walls?
Not much, just working. Same as thing. I ain't been able to get out. Rain kind of stuck it up. I was wanting to go out today, but didn't know when it was going to rain or how bad it rained yesterday. So
we got to plan something, y'all. Get out in the woods. I'm having withdrawals. Haven't been out in a while, but yeah, we'll get together, get out sometime. Who all we got hanging out with us tonight? I ain't even looked at her comments yet. Bigfoot Truth, Parkway, Mr. Chris Jarvis, Mr. Duffy is in the house. Always fun with Mr. Duffy. Got Pat. What's up, buddy? All right, a lot of our regulars are missing. Maybe they'll filter in. Anyway, let's get started talking about tonight's show. Like we said, going a little bit different tonight. The big guy's going to go over to on the UFO side, and I'm interested to see what his take is on maybe the connection between the two, UFO and the big guy. But like we said earlier, we are joined by Mr. Ruben. Ruben is the State Director for Northern California and Deputy Director of Investigations and International Affairs for MUFON. If you remember correctly, we had Deb on last week. Deb was also a member of MUFON. MUFON stands for Mutual UFO Network. So Mr. Ruben will be joining us tonight. And if you guys are ready, we'll just go ahead and bring him on. What do you think?
Yes, man. Yeah, I'm ready for him.
Mr. Ruben, how's it going, buddy?
Very good there, Wayne. Hello, Jasper. Daryl, thank you for having me on your show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very, very glad to have you. Pronounce your last name for everybody. I didn't want to butcher it.
And you have to roll the R's. It's Uriarte.
Oh, wow. I ain't,
That's okay. You could try it, but Ruben Uriarte.
I'm not even going to try. You nailed it. So we'll take your word for it. Well, how's it going out in sunny California?
We've had our fair share of weather here, unlike what happened to the folks there in Texas and the rest of the country with that freeze. We've had some not very nice weather, but we've also, as you know, we've been hit really hard by the fires that we've had over the summer. And unfortunately, we had those fires last year and the year before, so it's made a big impact here in Northern California and elsewhere. Yes.
Yeah, y'all struggle with that every year. I've talked to Daryl about that because Daryl just recently this past year moved from California down here our way to Tennessee, and I just don't understand how you guys have so much bad luck with those forest fires. Every year y'all battle them.
Yeah, knock on wood, no earthquakes. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you said it now, Ruben. Now there's going to be one.
I'm afraid there. Yeah, it's bound to happen.
Jinxed everybody, man. All
Uh,
right. Well, I'm kind of curious. You are pretty big into UFOs, obviously. I just wondering what got you into it. What sparked your interest and got you, and how long have you been looking into the subject?
well, like a lot of other people there, Wayne, my interest stems back to when I was a kid. Around 8 or 9 years old, I saw an unusual object hovering nearby, near my apartment where I live with my folks and that, and I was really intrigued by what I saw because it looked invisible, but then I could look around, and just looking at that thing just left an impression with me ever since then. Um, I've always had an interest in UFOs and science and dinosaurs, special cryptozoology. I later joined MUFON, and I climbed up the ranks and became a field investigator. And then later I became an assistant director, then director for Northern California MUFON. And later I was able to also become involved in helping out the various chapters or being a resource for MUFON and working with our international chapters, particularly in Mexico and South America. But also a really cool experience that I had was there was a company named Beyond Boundaries. It was a tour group that specialized in taking people throughout the world on UFO hotspots. And I went on my first tour primarily on crop circles. I did a lot of research on that. And then later, we started to go to other areas. I had a chance to go to Scotland. I've been to Scotland on 4 different occasions, and I was always very, very interested in the Nessie, and as well as some of the other reports of the ongoing UFOs and that. As far as with Bigfoot, one thing that I found out, Wayne, Daryl, and Jasper, was that when I went out on investigations, sometimes people would share with me not only their UFO sighting, but the fact that outside they would have a separate Bigfoot encounter experience. And I kept coming across that from friends and family members. They also, so that always obviously piqued my interest into the whole Bigfoot. And as you know, as Zero can attest to, that here in Northern California, it is a large hotbed of sightings, not just for UFOs, but also of Bigfoot. And because we have our mountains, we have our forests. And so I had a chance to do some investigations and that. So I've always been fascinated with those cases where there seems to be a little bit of a tie-in between UFO and that. If time permits, I'd like to talk to you also about my involvement in the whole chupacabra phenomena. I had a chance to go to Puerto Rico on 2 separate occasions, and so that was really fascinating research that we did on that creature, as well as maybe if we get a little chance, I do definitely would like to talk about Nessie, because there were some things that I also found out that was just quite amazing.
Absolutely, and Yeah, I'd be happy to have you back. If we can't get to everything tonight in our hour and 15 minutes that we have allotted, we can have you back if you would be open.
Oh, sure, definitely.
But yeah, that one of the things that I've been since we found out we were going to have you on. One of the questions that I've really been interested in excited to ask you is what is your belief in the correlation between Bigfoot and UFOs? Do you think that there is one?
Yes, I do. And I say that mainly because of some of the documentation of cases that have been out there. Yeah, like I'm sure, like many of you, when you either go on the internet or you talk to other researchers, they'll share with you their their investigations and that. One case that well, the other thing that I find is when I was starting to read up on the whole Bigfoot phenomena as well, is the similarity. The earliest documentation really came from our Native Americans, indigenous groups that would record, or they would make wooden monuments or on the totem poles of Bigfoot. Um, there would be artists or depictions in pottery or in baskets or whatever. But they looked at the whole Bigfoot as more of a supernatural being, and also the fact that it tended to be like that across many of the Native American legends, throughout the United States, but not just the United States. It also occurred in Mexico as well, which I found out that there was a large Native American group called Tarahumaras, and they live along the border, along close to the Apache Nation, and there were stories that that there was a hairy giant that would sometimes go into the villages and take women as well as take children. And some of the unfortunate stories that perhaps Bigfoot was a cannibal. He would eat these people. That tended to be consistent in some of the other encounters that unfortunately the Native Americans have had. But then you hear so many different points of view on that. But I found that quite interesting, that there is that whole Native American connection that we need to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a case that I would like to share with you gentlemen, was a case that happened in Northern California in Humboldt County in 1888.
Oh, wow.
There was a gentleman by the name of Wyatt, and he was a cattleman, and he wrote this experience in one of his journals. And years later, his grandson, his name was James Wyatt. He's from Memphis, Tennessee, where you folks are from, close from Tennessee, state of Tennessee. He sent a copy of this journal to Brad Steiger. Brad Steiger was a famous author who wrote about paranormal and um, mysterious experiences and that. And he wrote this particular case where his grandfather was one day. His name is Wyatt again. Mr. Wyatt was walking. Was living with the local tribesmen for a certain amount of time, and he also spoke the Indian language there. And apparently, he had noticed this one tribesman carrying a platter full of raw meat, and he followed the gentleman, and then he started to ask him, "Why are you carrying the platter of meat?" And finally, the tribesman responded, "Well, follow me." And so they walked into a cave, and apparently there was this very large, muscular human, or almost a man, but he was full of hair, black hair, and and he was sitting with cross-legged. So he started eating the meat that was brought to him, and Wyatt was totally in shock. But later he started to ask more questions and found out that that they refer to these creatures as crazy bears. And so Wyatt had some more questions, and finally one day they took Wyatt up to a large peak, and he said that the crazy bears were brought by these small moons, and that these small moons would descend, and these human-like people would come out. They had like short hair. They were small, but they were well built, and they wore shiny clothing. And that they release these um, crazy bears out there, and then the Native Americans that lived in that area would guide these creatures toward the caves, because again they consider these Bigfoot creatures as supernatural. So these moons that were shaped like spheres, or round, like, would then rapidly leave and then fly out above the sky and into space. And so what I thought that was fascinating, because one of the biggest amount of objects that are reported to MUFON are spheres. And back then, and they didn't have we didn't have airplanes, we didn't have rockets, back in the 1880s at that time. So people just use whatever they can to describe as close as possible, and so that's why they use the word moons. So I thought that was really quite interesting. That was probably one of the interesting cases of crossing both the UFO connection and with the Bigfoot.
Now, crazy bears. I've never heard that. I like that. That's interesting.
The crazy bears. Now, I actually had a chance to investigate a Bigfoot sighting through MUFON. We got both Devlin, who you had on last week. She was our chief investigator. Now she's our assistant state director. Fantastic person, and very, very knowledgeable. And we're very fortunate having her on our team. Both she and I went on a case, and we met some very credible witnesses who own a farm, and they were saying that something was mysteriously had killed some of their livestock. They had like turkeys, they had some rabbits, and they found a dead peacock out there. And the gentleman said what he saw and was something that looked like a Bigfoot creature. That really surprised us. But so the witness went and showed us the location where the animals were dead, and then we found out that his background was in law enforcement, so that also added a little bit more to the credibility of the witness. But we had to be, of course, very careful. Sometimes, as you know, and as Daryl and could also share, that sometimes these, and I'm sure you gentlemen have come across this, that sometimes talking about this subject or being involved, you can get there's this whole ridicule factor. So we were very much, we understood that we had to protect his identity, as well as because you could lose your job over this. And
Absolutely.
We found that to be true on some occasions. So anyway, I had the gentleman draw me. I asked him to draw what he saw, and he showed the big shoulders and the head. The creature had no neck, but you could see the the head, the big shoulders going down, and then down to a very muscular torso. But this is really what was really odd was the fact that he said that you couldn't see the legs. It was almost as it was invisible. And I said, that's really interesting. Because he said first the solid part, and then the other was, I guess the term I'm trying to say is ethereal. That you couldn't see the legs. So I was wondering back then. That immediately I said, well, what is this thing? Is there a connection with the whole other aspect of the Bigfoot, that it perhaps might be interdimensional? We come across that as well, and I know for a fact that there are cases of UFOs that have been seen where objects have come, where the sky opens and the object tends to come either out or go back in, almost like a vortex type. And I've read of reports where people had observed seeing a strange vortex and actually seeing creatures actually coming in or out. I mean, to verify that, of course, we're going by the witness testimony, but until we can probably get more evidence, from either visual evidence and that's the other. That's if those cameras will work around that kind of energy. That's the other aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's really interesting that you just brought up that the witness said that it seemed like the legs, it didn't have legs, because I've talked to Daryl more than a couple times about following trackways out into an open field, and then the tracks just disappear. And that's a big mystery.
Yes.
In the Bigfoot world. How does that happen? I mean, there's nothing around. There's no way for this creature to jump, 100 feet to something else. It's almost like something came and picked it up,
Exactly. Going back to cases where UFOs have been observed, I mean, I've come across some of the cases where there was a UFO sighting, and then minutes later, witnesses would observe either one or two Bigfoots walking within the vicinity and then leaving. So both the UFO as well as the Bigfoot would also disappear. Can I just see here? See Bigfoot
Yeah,
group.
let me
Has the
see if I can read
organization
this.
come? Sure.
Yeah, read this question to you. Has this organization come to the conclusion that the government is working with alien intelligence, because many other people have come to the realization?
I really can't say specifically on this, because
Yeah, that would be tough.
there's this speculation on that. We often wonder if there is, because you do hear other researchers that find some sort of evidence or documents that show that perhaps our government has had some sort of interaction, and might be. Then again,
we all know
we
what
might know.
We all know what happens when the government gets involved, Ruben. You and I both, and there's a lot of government interference when it comes to proof.
Yes, over the years. Before I forget, I wanted to also share with you a couple of interesting findings going back to the Bigfoot. To my surprise, when back in 1994, I went on an expedition to Puerto Rico, and I remember talking to a gentleman, and he said that that he was near El Yunque rainforest, and that he was looking through his binoculars, and then he saw this big hairy-like creature staring at him. So the creature knew that he was being watched, and he looked at it, and he was just totally frightened. I mean, seeing a Bigfoot creature right there in El Yunque, And Puerto Rico has, over the years, also been a very big hotspot for UFOs. So back in, so that was in '94. I had a chance to meet a gentleman who was one of the leading investigators for Puerto Rico. And right before we were about to leave, the next day we were going to go back to the mainland. He started telling me that they were finding goats and chickens dead, and that the strange thing was that there was no blood in these animals. So that was and so I thought that was quite odd. Oh, and that they found a bull that was also killed. There was like a deep hole in its back, and it too, the blood was missing. So after I arrived, then all of a sudden you started to hear of stories of chupacabras, goat suckers, basically the term, and that was stories were coming out from various parts of Latin America, Mexico, and what I found quite interesting was that the description of the chupacabra in Puerto Rico was more of a bipedal creature. Was small, and also that it had the ability to jump in at distances, and it could even fly just for a moment. Really odd. So in 1999, we went back to Puerto Rico. I believe the Learning Channel, they were doing a documentary called The Monster Hunters, and my group from Beyond Boundaries, our traveling group, we made the arrangements with the film crew as well as with some of the cryptid experts. And we came across, so we talked to a number of witnesses who remember hearing this creature jumping up on the rooftops of the house. Bam, 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 bam. It would just scare the owners of the homes, or the homeowners, and as well as the animals would totally be frightened. And one woman was telling us that her dog was barking up a tree, and then all of a sudden it was gone. And then later we had the mayor of the local town show us around. We were being escorted by members of the police department, and they took us to meet other witnesses. And the mayor said that his biggest concern was that he says right now they're attacking animals, but what's going to happen when they start attacking children and people? And the mayor had obviously a big concern because he didn't really know what they were dealing with, but apparently he got a lot of criticism from. They were trying to make him a laughing stock because they were talking about you have a politician asking for cooperation, asking the higher ups to start investigating this. And I found that to be true in some of my other experiences where local politicians are trying to find out the truth of what's going on in their immediate area. And Daryl, I guess it was like you said, it seems like they could. There wasn't that much cooperation. They weren't able to get the resources that they needed to actually investigate what was going on. The thing that I found out quite interesting about Puerto Rico is that it's a very much a cavernous country. There are lots of caves, and maybe these creatures are able to go into this whole tunnel system and travel into other areas of the island. And the reason why I bring up Puerto Rico and then that whole behavior of the chupacabra is the fact that I have a friend of mine who was also a researcher. He's from Cuba, and he basically to my amazement, I wasn't aware of this, but he did a lot of research on the Cuban Yeti. That there were over a number of sightings of a Bigfoot-like creature in Cuba, and that Cuba had close to more than 1,000 registered caves.
Wow.
And the fact that there might be a possibility that the creature or this Yeti-like is probably living in those caves. And I stay with the caves because I found that quite interesting in Mexico too. A friend of mine was telling me of a case that he investigated where they found these Bigfoot-like creatures that lived in the canyon. No, excuse me. There were copper mining caves. They were living there, and that people would accidentally, or the hikers would accidentally come across these Bigfoots. And this happened in the state of Chihuahua. So what I do, Wayne, Daryl, and Jasper, is I look at different parts of the puzzle and start making a connection here. And I can go back into some of the historical data, and then and crisscross that with some of the actual cases that people that I know that have been involved in investigating, as well as my own experience.
Now, hey, Ruben. I'm trying to go back and reflecting back in time of how you and I met.
Yes.
I was doing an investigation about a Bigfoot sighting by a professor and some other people from the SETI site, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
Exactly.
In Reading. And if you remember, I made a lot of phone calls, and that's how I got in touch with you. But I would kind of like to know of you've been a MUFON person and for a long time. You know a lot of the big names like Pope, with Torres. I know you've written numerous books. I've probably watched every TV show that you've been on, and probably more than once. But without mentioning names, how many of the big guys, the government people, have come to you and you've sat down and talked with them, and they believe the same thing that you and I believe, that these creatures are interdimensional, they're UFO togetherness? You know what I mean? Can you kind of give me just a kind of a rough guess?
Well, I think that as far as the number of people, and like I said, you got to keep an open mind, and I think that the fact that we're dealing in this whole thing called high strangeness, and it's MUFON used to be like a nuts and bolts organization, strictly interested in how did these things operate, but then you get into a whole other aspect of the phenomenon. You start dealing with abductions, right? And then you have the whole thing of cattle mutilations, and you have the whole thing of crop circles, and you have a whole other aspect of more high strangeness. So I think over the years I've had the although you meet people that specialize in one certain area, I think they start finding that there's this whole connection, and I believe that's what the number of people are open to that.
See, when I met you, I didn't mean to cut you off, sir. I'm sorry. When I met you, I was very closed-minded to the UFO Bigfoot connection. But over the last 5-6 years that you and I talk, I seem to broaden my scope now. I'm not so closed-minded anymore. Because like I've told everybody, I've seen footprints in the middle of the snow where it could have gone.
Yeah.
Jump out of the snow, and that's one of my theories, of the extra dimensional kind of creature situation. UFOs have been around, like you said, forever. Bigfoot's been around forever. How do you think that the UFO Bigfoot connection? Why do they appear in front of certain people, or why do UFOs appear to certain people? I mean, is it a luck of the draw, or is it? Could it be some kind of telepathy kind of thing.
Right. I think it's all the above there, Daryl. Going back, mentioning about that one case that happened in Humboldt County where these crazy bears, as they were referred to, were brought by these small moons. And that's if the journal is accurate. I mean, obviously we're relying on the story that was brought, but that may just open the doors to other cases. Again, why, it's just a lot of speculation. I've heard where these perhaps that these UFOs are or the ETs are doing some sort of experimental experiment, bringing these Bigfoots to our planet after they've been genetically altered. I mean, I've heard that. I can't prove that, obviously, or can they prove that? But that's just, again, a speculation. I don't really have an answer to that, but all I can look at is some of the information that's out there, and then you know how it is. You have to filter it out. What's bull or what may be possible. Again, like I said earlier, what we may think today may change because science is changing.
Right.
And there it might be that that finally there'll be some releasement of a Bigfoot, the whole Bigfoot enigma. Maybe the bodies will be revealed, or maybe we'll find out something else. And if it's not from this country, it may come from another country as well. That's the thing that we keep. It's not a U.S. Phenomena; it's a worldwide phenomena. That's including Bigfoot, cryptids, and that. I have an interesting book I just got, by the way. I'd like to share it with you. It's called Mexican Monsters: The Cryptids and Legendary Creatures of Mexico. And so I'm going to take a look at that as well, because, again, these sightings that are occurring, right here in our border. And that's my focus has been on that, has been the UFO sightings along the U.S.-Mexican border and the impact of what it's doing on both sides, to both countries.
I don't want to put you on the spot here. I'll let you go ahead and answer that, Ruben, for me, and then I'll come back.
This is actually from Dev. Dev is on Facebook watching, and she asked this: did Ruben ever have an actual case for MUFON that was with a UFO and a Bigfoot? We touched on that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mentioned to Devlin, the case that you and I had investigated there in Central California. Although it wasn't. I'm trying to recall if there was a big UFO involved. I was focusing on the fact that the animals were found dead, and then also the description by the witness. I think we had concluded that as information only, or
So Ruben, I don't mean to hog this up, you guys. I'm sorry.
Good.
I've just now started reading a book called Mexico's Roswell that you had written back, I think, about 2007, somewhere in there.
Yes.
So how far did the investigation go, and did they stop you from doing the investigation, the government?
No, we haven't had really any resistance on that. What stopped us from doing any further investigation was the fact that right around that time, you had all the cartel activity going on, and it wasn't safe for us to go into the border and go into these remote areas, because we would basically be putting our lives in danger. And when we were there, we did an episode with the UFO hunters, and that on crash retrievals, in fact. And when it talked about the Mexico Roswell or the Coyamic crash, and also we did some other investigations of some other cases. And one of the things that we came across was where there were a lot of number of checkpoints by military, and we actually had to get out of our bus, and we had a 50 caliber machine gun being aimed at us when we got out of the bus, and they were questioning what we were doing, and we told them we were doing a documentary on UFOs and all that, and finally the head military official allowed us to pass. And then we had mentioned, oh yeah, we know Jaime Maussan. Jaime Maussan is a very popular UFO journalist in Mexico, and they said, oh, you know Jaime Maussan. And then all of a sudden, the soldiers start telling us stories about their sightings.
Right.
So we found that really quite interesting. Yeah, I always get fascinated with that and connecting with law enforcement, especially when they know that you're a UFO investigator, and many times these folks will share with you some tidbit of information that they've had a sighting on their patrol route, and that I've had that happen, especially going across the border and meeting and talking with border patrol agents.
Now, I was just going to ask you if you could maybe tell a quick story about the border patrol agent that you were telling me about the other day.
Oh yeah, I highly recommend his book called On Foot. It was written. It was written by Rocky Elmore, and he has a website called On Foot. You could look it up, and he shared his experiences of the paranormal that both he and his fellow colleagues had come across, and also with Bigfoot sightings. And that one interesting experience that he had was he was on patrol, and his supervisor had some sort of infrared telescope, and that his supervisor noticed this giant, this huge bipedal creature stalking two of the border patrol agents. And there's a lot more detail to it, but the fact that his supervisor immediately got on the radio and told the men to get out, that there was a predator nearby and that their lives were in danger. And it wasn't until he had shared, until the supervisor shared that it was a bipedal creature with enormous size, and Rocky had also come across some other Bigfoot sightings along the border there. And again, that kind of ties in with some of the experiences that I had in terms of meeting people, and that there is that Bigfoot connection aside from just UFOs on both sides of the border, because if you get a number of interesting stories from other witnesses.
Now, do you know that Rocky? Do you know him personally?
Yeah, yes. In fact, I would highly recommend him to get him to be on your show.
If he would come on, I would absolutely love to have him. If you could make that introduction, Ruben, I would be
Absolutely. I can do that. Yeah, you'll be hearing from his perspective.
That would be awesome. You
Border
have my
Patrol.
number and I have yours, so yeah, make that happen, buddy. I'd appreciate it.
Excellent. Did you have any other questions there that people had sent? Just
Well,
curious.
actually, I have a question, Ruben. Something that I've been wondering. Now, like when myself or Walls or Daryl or other Bigfoot researchers, when we go out on an investigation, we have a certain criteria, that we follow. We have things that we can look for as far as physical evidence, tracks. Daryl and I have found hair in a tree. Other things like that, vocalizations that we can listen for. What all goes into a UFO investigation? Do you just take in a report and then go interview the witness, or how does that work?
Well, we're fortunate. We have a manual, and in that manual, we have a variety of checklists that we follow. The main thing is to provide a written report. We ask the witness for, obviously, some of the data that the way we find out about a report is that many times a witness will go ahead and submit that they had a sighting, and will add pertinent information about what they saw, where did it happen, what did it look like, how high was it, what shape did it look like, and then there's a lot of other technical information like the weather, and then which we do. We try to find out what the weather factors that were behind it. More information on what it looked like. Did it land? Did it hover? What exactly did it do, and what direction? And then finally, when we do get together with the witness, a lot of it's conducted on the phone, either on phone or on computer. We don't do as many on-site investigations like we used to, but a lot of that can be covered primarily on the phone in that. So basically, all that information is collected on the forms, and then we would try to make a determination of what it was. Is it an unknown, or is it information only? Was there any other evidence attached, like videos, for example, anything out there? And then so it's put into a report, and then finally it's then submitted. It's reviewed. That's what Devlin does a great job, and so does our chief investigator. They review the cases and make sure that it's filled out completely, because these cases are reviewed by higher ups, and we have a large database, and we want to make sure that all the information is there, so that if there's further investigation needed, they could take that information, and then you could do a lot of comparisons too. And that's the beauty of having a database. So, for example, if I wanted to know how big have footprints. How big are, what's the average length, and maybe I could of their feet or handprints, and maybe we can get an assortment of the different sizes that have been described out there. So there's some more to it. You can go to our website, mufon.com, and there's on how to become an investigator. It gives you more of our protocols. Also to our website in Northern California, which is Northern California MUFON.com.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot more to it, but that's just in general there, Wayne.
Yeah. Something else that I was wondering. In your years of doing this, have you taken any abduction reports? Have you talked to
quite a
anyone
bit?
who claims to be abducted?
Yes, quite a bit. In fact, I also sit on a board. I'm a member of a organization called OPUS, Organization Paranormal Understanding and Support. And
What's that called again?
Opus network.org. OPUS network.org is the website. And we get a lot of people that have had experiences, and they don't have any place to go to share, because as we were talking earlier, a lot of these folks are ridiculed either by their family members, or they need to be talked to somebody. So we have a support group. Other people of like minds, other people have had, and they share, they talk. We have a format, and these folks do talk and among themselves and share their experiences.
Now, do
Sometimes
you have a specific instance that you can story that you could tell real quick about one that stands out to you, or are you allowed to do that?
Oh, about an abduction?
Yes, sir.
Specifically, Jesus. Now you're having me think real quickly, because.
If not, we can save it till next time.
But yeah, we could do that. I mean, I've come across so many interesting cases. I think the one that I just immediately thought of, although it wasn't an abduction yet, This is one of the interesting cases that I came across when I went to Mexico back in 1995. I met a young man, or we were introduced to a young man who was at that time 12 years old. This is 1995, and he told us a story that both he and his friend, they were herding a bunch of goats close to an area close to the volcano. The volcano is named Mount Popocatépetl. It's an active volcano, and it's a volcano that's not too far from Mexico City. You can imagine if that thing went off, how many millions of people that would endanger. So anyway, he said that there was a flash of light, and he was completely surprised, and it frightened the goats, and that all the goats went and they formed a protective circle. And then he looked, and he saw these three beings that were there. They were wearing tight-fitting clothes, and that one of them spoke telepathically to him and said that they were there to protect the volcano from erupting, and they were there to prevent the others from erupting the volcano. And then the being said something quite startling. He said that there will be a war in New York that will cause the entire world to go on alert. That was 19. No, we met with him in 95, but his actual experience with these beings happened in 1993. So we heard that information. In fact, I talked with him, and then my immediate thought was, well, that must be the attack of the World Trade Center back in 1993, the first one, right? Well, the fact that this being told, this kid didn't know anything about the World Trade Center, didn't even know anything about New York and that. But the fact that the being told him that there would be a war in New York, well, then what happened? We had the 9/11, right? 2001. Now I'm trying to remember the exact year, but 20 years ago. And so that it's really quite interesting when we hear all these interesting cases out there, and I've had some other interesting experiences as well. But
Okay, yeah.
but
Like I said,
have me back, and I'll definitely we can continue to talk about the whole other aspect of it.
and Dev had commented too. She's still on here. Said, "Oh, she has a good one, so we'll need to talk to her too." Had a
Yeah,
question.
definitely less.
Yeah. Trying to go back and find it. When was that one, Walls, from Cowboy?
Uh,
Okay, right here, I got it. What do you think about the Phoenix lights?
That's a really significant case. A large boomerang object that flew over the city of Phoenix. I think it was 1997 or 98. Can't remember the exact year. For the fact that this enormous V-shaped object flew over the city, and it was observed by many, many people. If I recall, there were some witnesses said that it was almost transparent.
Wow.
And then on the other hand, this goes back to the cover up. Was there were reports that maybe that these lights were flares coming from a jet. There was some sort of military exercise.
now you're referring to the triangle shape, aren't you?
Yeah, the big one over in Phoenix.
I heard about that, and that was big deal in Phoenix.
And what's interesting, it was also observed in Mexico.
Yep.
As well, and then it was flying toward Phoenix.
Yep.
Yeah, it was quite interesting, and still to today, it's still really much one of those very important cases.
All right. Well, we are right here at an hour, Ruben. So I think it's a pretty good time to call it, especially since you've agreed to come back. This has been a very, very interesting show.
Oh, thank you.
You've turned into one of my favorite guests, and um, I'll be happy to have you back because I have other questions too
Yeah.
that I'd like to
Maybe
talk about.
perhaps we could talk more about Scotland and the Inverness where I went to, and talk more about the Nessie creature.
Yeah, I wasn't aware.
That was
I wasn't
that
aware
was
that you were as well versed in other cryptids as you are. So we got a lot to talk about.
well. It comes with over the years, and when you're meeting people, and you have the opportunity to travel and then network.
Yeah,
And that was someday. I hope to go out with Daryl, and we'll do a Bigfoot investigation.
I would love.
absolutely. That would be great. All right, buddy. Again, thank you for your time, sir. It's been really really interesting, and look forward to having you back. I will be in touch very shortly to set that up, buddy. And don't forget to talk to Rocky for me.
Definitely. Thank you.
Good
Have a
night,
good
Ruben.
night,
Bye
buddy.
bye, amigos.
Have a good night, sir.
Wow, I mean, I wasn't kidding when I said that one of my favorite new guests. He's got some stories now. He's got all kind of information. We can learn some stuff from him. I appreciate you sending him our way,
You're welcome.
Daryl.
That's all I got.
Well, if that's all, you did good, buddy.
And I want to just fill in some block questions here. When I was doing an investigation, I actually had a Bigfoot sighting in SETI. SETI is a search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and it was in Reading. It's where they have the big the telescopes and all that stuff. And there was some people in a van, and they saw this large hairy creature jump the fence and was walking by the telescope. So they called us, and so we went out, we investigated it. And unfortunately, the two people that called me, they immediately were taken inside the building and said they couldn't talk to me. So when I got back to my house, which is about an hour from where I live, I started calling people, and I got in touch with Ruben, and Kelly and I actually went down to where Ruben was at. It's about an hour and a half drive from where our house was. And we actually met we had pizza, and I took a bunch of my casts, my hand print, and some of the other footprints and stuff. And that's the first time he's ever got to really put his hands on a print or a cast. And I talked to him about it, and we had a big discussion about the government. And I won't speak for Ruben because I don't want to get in trouble. But I will tell you that when you start, and he hit base, and your guest last week hit it also. When you start bringing evidence forward, and it's a lot, and it's important stuff, I'm telling you, there's going to be a knock on the door. And Ruben knows exactly what I'm talking about when they don't want you talking about it, because not only him, but myself, and even your guest last week had told you that they knock on the door. So, to all the researchers out there, if you have something that's really important. Now, I know that Wayne has hair. I was there when he found it.
On his back too.
So what I'm trying to say is, you guys, if you're going to send it someplace, make sure that it's very important that you get it back, or it's somebody you can trust. Because if you send it to big folk like an academy or a college or someplace like that, you're bound to lose it. If it comes back as a positive of any kind of creature outside of human, you're going to lose your hair. And guess what's going to happen is they're going to follow you. And they're going to see where you're going out in the woods, because they're going to want to know where you're going. So I'll just leave it like that. But I've had that experience. I've had them where they followed us, and I've had that knock on the door where I can't talk about a lot of things. And Wayne, you're that. I've showed you my paperwork. So
I've seen a lot of it. Yeah.
That's it for me. I'm just jabbermouthing over here. So.
No, that's good. It's really really good information. Glad that you share it. People need to know this stuff. They really do. And again, bud, thank you for sending Ruben our way. And
you're welcome. Thank you guys for having me again. on this week, and I really appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah, well, we're not done with you, Daryl. You know that.
I know.
You'll be back.
It's Derek's fingernails that are killing me right now.
Let's see him, buddy. What's them nails look like?
He's killing me, man. Killing
Man,
me.
can't you do
Well,
like a satin red or something pretty? Some
No,
pink or something?
that ain't my character. I only have black and red. That's it.
Man, you're playing with the little girls, man. Let them pick the color for once.
They were purple once. No.
well, you know what we're going to get him for Christmas, right?
Oh God, what? They don't make tutus that big.
That's what we're gonna put you in. Hey, Gypsy Road.
Yeah, all right. Let's get out of here, guys. Appreciate everybody stopping by, hanging out with us. We had Mr. Duffy and Duke and Illinois Sasquatch, who's well, Mr. Duffy and Duke have both been guests on our show, and Illinois Sasquatch will be in the upcoming week. So appreciate guys stopping by. Crave Dog, Kirk, Seltzer, Gypsy Road. Hadn't seen you in a while, buddy. We've been on Jitsi a couple times. I want to thank everybody for stopping by, especially the one that gave us that thumbs down. Love you. You're my favorite. But anyway, guys, y'all got anything before we get out of here?
I just want to thank everybody for having me, and thanks for being kind.
Be safe out there, guys. It's gonna be raining soon.
Yeah, guys, y'all be good to each other, help each other out, and be safe. We will see you next time, and y'all be good.